I'm Jim Pillen. I have the extraordinary privilege to be the 41st governor of the extraordinary state of Nebraska. I'd be really remiss if I didn't start my number one, thank you for coming out. Really look forward to being able to talk about whatever's important to anybody in this room. But maybe before I start, I want to make sure we get on the page on one thing, be all on the same page on one thing that's really important. And I call it the gift of appreciation. Okay? I love asking this question, and it's really important because us lifetimers, when I ask this question, as lifetimers, we get flustered, a little frustrated, we'll maybe look down, kick the dirt, and not know what to say. So here's the question, in one word answer: what do we love the most about Nebraska?
Beef. Opportunity.
So as I love to say, us lifetimers flustered, we kick the dirt, we don't know what to say. If you move here, you can't get it out fast enough to answer. It's the people. It's the people. Really, really important to remember that, because I lived my life, my bride Suzanne is here. I lived my life way too long taking a lot of things for granted. Right, Father? If we take it for granted, we don't, it's not good. We don't fully appreciate God's grace, everything. And most important is our brothers and sisters. If we just think we're normal, we are not fully appreciating who we are. And let me tell you, I meet gobs and gobs of people that move to the promised land of Nebraska, and they can't get it out fast enough. Let me brag about one thing that just happened in the last month. The day that President Trump said we have to make a move and make sure that we stand up and separate nuclear deterrence and attacked and bombed Iran. And I heard it came from Missouri. I've spent a lot of time with General Cotton, 4-star general. I had to become governor to understand how extraordinary the Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska is. It's the most powerful, significant Air Force base in the world. General Cotton, 4-star general, he heads up global nuclear deterrence. And I was with General Suzanne, I were with the general and his wife last week, and I said, Tony, I go, you know, I'm so disappointed that it came from Missouri. I said, well, here's how it worked. That command reports to me and Offutt. Our team at Offutt Air Force Base put the incredible plan together. The plan that I believe no country's going to mess with us for at least 30 years because it showed extraordinary superiority of anybody else on Earth. That's kind of a shout out, and it's from Offutt Air Force Base, right? So when I get to be out with General Cotton at Offutt Air Force Base, and he's told me, he goes, Jim, there's 9,000 troops there, and he said, everybody here, when they learn that they're stationed at Offutt Air Force Base, none of them wanted to be at Offutt. But once they're at Offutt, they don't want to get off it. Once they're on Offutt, they don't want to get off it, and it's because it's the people. It's the people. So I think it's really, really important that we can have great full appreciation of just how extraordinary. I think then the second is how important it is so that our kids know that. Our kids know that. I want to share something that I learned that hit me from Coach Rule. We had the Governor Summit in Kearney this last week, and Coach Rule came out on Thursday morning and gave a keynote, and he made a phrase that I'd like to share with you that hit me deeply, that I think is important for all of us. He said, if we're going to think big, we're going to think great, we're going to do something that no one else can do and be the best we can be, we have to speak it into existence. We have to speak it into existence. So that's why I talk about it's the people, and that we have appreciation so that our kids know it. Our kids know it. Do you understand? Do you all realize that our kids today, every kid that's in McCook High School, guess where they want to raise their families? 9 out of 10 right here, right at home. We have opportunities unlike we've ever been in any of our days because our kids want to live here. And so that creates something that's really important, and I talk to kids about dreams all the time, right? Well, I want to challenge everybody here today to start thinking, because every one of us, I don't care what age we are, we need to have new, hairy, audacious dreams. New, hairy, audacious dreams for your family, for yourself, for your community, for your business, because we can do it better than anyone in the world. Part of the Governor's Summit was manufacturers, and everywhere I go, is when there's business, when there's folks that have a business in Nebraska and somewhere else, guess where their best business is? Of course, Nebraska. Of course, everywhere. And again, why is that? Because it's let's get that in unison and fired up. There you go. So those are things that I think are really important, and maybe I just wanted to share. We've been working very, very hard as your governor to run government like a business. And we shared the other day, we had 4 of our cabinet members. So as your governor, I have the privilege to that I have 29 cabinet members that serve at the discretion of the governor's office. Since I've been governor, I think we have 25 new out of the 29. I want to introduce Rob Jeffries. Rob is here. Rob, if you just give a shout out. Rob is the director of our corrections department in the state of Nebraska. And I always like to brag about Rob. We convinced him Nebraska was far superior than Illinois could ever be. So one of the things, Rob and 3 of his other colleagues, we had a fireside chat over lunch about how we started a program in January of 23. Okay, in January of 23, where we called it Running Government Like a Business, a Systems Approach, Improve Services to Decrease Expense. It was, quote, our DOGE program before we'd ever heard about a DOGE program. And we're making incredible progress. And in fact, our plan will be that we will decrease from the budget that was set this past year in the unicameral, we will decrease spend at the state level $500 million this year. Never been done before, never been talked about before, and that's almost 10%. Almost 10%. So those are things that are really, really important. I want to share that. My dad would say, if you got to tell people what you're doing, there's something wrong, and I agree with that. But I'm giving you a little bit of a feedback of what we've been working very hard on. And the 4 words that we constantly keep references: kids, taxes, agriculture, values. Kids, taxes, agriculture, values, and kids. There's a couple of things we're really proud of. We were able to get through in partnership with folks in the legislature, where we really, really focused on these phones. We used to call them smartphones. I call them dumb phones, right? Because what they've done to us. And so a year ago at this time, as we were working on it, the special interest groups, the lobbying groups, said there's no way you get this stuff through, because the technology lobbyists will absolutely crush the senators. So we were able to get through no phones in school, bell to bell. No phones in school, bell to bell. We're helping parents in terms of social media exposure to limit it until a certain age. Number 3, this turns our stomach, but the hardcore reality would be the AI technology of pornographic crap. The predators are out there robbing the virtues of girl next door, sex predating. We got that off. And then the addictive natures of it. So extraordinary good stuff to protect our kids, but maybe I might have, hopefully it might have an impact on how all of us think. I don't know about all of you, but I would just tell you I'm embarrassed to admit what these dumb phones have done to me and how it is, how do I want to say, how it has started impacting how you go about the day. Do you ever get embarrassed when you're moving and you think, I gotta look at that phone? What the heck? So if it's happening to us, what do you think it's doing to our kids? It's doing to our kids. So there's a new book out I would encourage. I have not got it read. I have it in my bag, but I haven't gotten it read. It's called Unplug. Unplug. And I think it could help every one of us to say, what has happened to us in the last 20 years? And what's happened when our brain is so filled up with garbage that we don't even have enough time to think for ourselves? So I think those are things that are really important. And maybe the other one I want to share in regard to it, Suzanne and I we celebrated Assumption, the Assumption of Mary, Holy Day in the Catholic Church yesterday with the Sisters of Christ the King. And one sister that we know comes from our parish. She was talking about her class, her new class, and she has a little second grader who just moved in to the school and can't speak a lick of English. And she said just how trying it is. So I said, well, I'm inclined, I need to share with you what I learned from a very, very high academic institute called the Mormon's Feed Salesman. Anybody remember Mormon's Feed Salesman? Some? Yeah. So it's called communication. Have you heard this one? Communication is 7:38:55. So it kind of goes in line with talking about these dumb phones and texting and all this stuff. So communication is 7:38:55. I believe it with every cell in my body. So communication, 7% of communication is the words we use. 7%. 38% is how we say it, like, good morning, Jason. You know, how stimulating would that be? And then 55% is our body language. 55% is our body language. So as I love to say, I can read everybody's body language right now. I can read what you are thinking more accurately than if you texted me. Think of that. Kind of goofy. Anybody believe that? But you can, because our body is giving off vibes, whether we know it or not. I did not understand that until I learned it. So we're giving out. So my reason for bringing it out is for our communities. If we really think about 38:55, as I told Sister, it doesn't matter what you're saying. If the little guy's having a hard time, you just got to love him up and hug him and make sure your eyes connect. And, you know, yeah, you might not learn a lot this year, but he's going to make it through till he gets it figured out. And then more importantly, when we think about mental health and we think about our community and our brothers and sisters, what's it take to walk and then smile, make eye contact, say hello, or just smile? You know, I hate to admit it, but if I'm walking down the hallway and I look at somebody and they look down, and oh, gee, what'd I do, right? I mean, what's it do for us? Anyway, 7:38:55, we can, if we lift that up, we can really make a big difference. So kids, and you know, taxes, we put a very, very fiscally first negative budget and decreased spend. Agriculture, I was really, really proud that we got fake meat through, nobody's going to make bioreactor meat in the state of Nebraska, and no grocery store is going to have it. Now, some here might say, you know, that's really, really harsh. Maybe I want it. And I said, it's okay. You can, you're not going to get penalized. You're not going to get any conviction for eating it. You can eat the stuff. You're just going to have it drop shipped to your door. So I believe that's really, really important, because these far left groups are trying to do nothing but put all of us out of business. And so I think that was a big win. And then talk about standing up for our values. Shouldn't take as much. And some would say, how do we even have that conversation? But We got LB 89 passed, which simply means girls will only compete against girls in athletics in the state of Nebraska. So we'll never do that. We had one holdout. He held out on pro-life, and he went upside down again on the switches, and he held out on the restrooms. So we did not get that piece in the bill. And I said, well, you know, in Nebraska, we will get it fixed, but in Nebraska, boys know it's right? And boys will make sure no boy's going to come in women's restroom or locker room anyway. But it is appalling, and some have said, oh, that's not Nebraska. Well, hardcore reality. And this is maybe the last message we request. We have a Nebraska High School Activities Association. Okay? And go take a look at the members of it. I mean, we have some really, really good conservative superintendents on it, but yet they've been hoodwinked by the, quote, brilliant doctors that say this child needs to be injected with hormones. Before we got that legislation in place, there were 6 students who were going through the process with the Nebraska High School Activities Association to be allowed to compete in girls' sports. I know nobody can believe that, but that's the way it is. So we've got all that stuff under control. So those are things that are gigantic, really, really important, and progress. So how about questions? I talked too long. What would you like to talk about? Yes, sir.
I want to first say I appreciate your efforts that you've made for bringing parity to TIOSA.
Yeah.
To where some of these rural school districts have actually started to get some state funding like we should have been getting all along. And I appreciate the ones that have been the most responsible with those funds and have reduced the levy. How is your efforts going at culling in the Nebraska Department of Education? Because that is a serious stumbling block for getting just the lack of work getting done there, because we've had to wait sometimes a year for teacher credentials to get approved that sat on the desks of people that aren't doing their job at the department. And I know we've had conversations before about how that department had grown far beyond its scope, and there was a lot of people that literally weren't showing up to do their job.
Yeah. Well, let me just, so I appreciate the comment, and let me just touch base on a couple things we put a lot of energy in. Number one, I have spent, we need public education to be successful. Instead of throwing stones, I have met countless times with superintendents. I just had a 2-hour meeting with the superintendents of the 12 largest schools last week or the week before. And we have we don't have backslapping conversations. We have very, very pragmatic, straightforward conversations. Senator Hughes got a bill, so we started a commission. We just got that started this week in regard to the funding. I have said to Dr. Maher, our state education department has way too much bureaucracy. I've been to Washington, D.C. I've met with Secretary McMahon, the new secretary that President Trump has assigned to end federal involvement in education. I'm really, really jacked up about what that's doing. It's underway. It's obviously got to get through Congress. And as Secretary McMahon said, what's your view of that? And I said, well, my view of that, number one, we get $310 million in the state of Nebraska from the federal government. Unfortunately today, it goes through the Department of Education, and then there's checkers that got to do gotcha reports to get that $310 million. So my response is we need that in a grant block so we can do with it as we see fit. And she said, well, what are your ideas? I said, well, at least 40% of the Department of Education can be eliminated, because many of those are sending reports to federal folks and get rid of the bureaucracy, number one. Number two, I think it's really important. Any school board members here in McCook?
On Southwest, the neighboring school
Yeah.
district.
So point that's really important, the most elected position in the state of Nebraska, no questions asked, are school board members. I believe when all this sex education crap got up, I think that the conversation was wrong. The conversation is wrong. You, board member, you run your school, not the State Board of Education. The State Board of Education is a recommending body, period. You run whatever you decide. Now that we get the federal government out of our hair, that will be a big step. So I'm a believer that some of those funds be utilized so we can do the right. We pay teachers more. Every time I get to meet somebody that is committed to being a teacher and a coach, right? I would bet, would all of us agree, I don't care what age we are, when we think about who's the three most important people in our life, I bet the farm one of the threes, teacher or coach. And it's important that we lift that up and do that. So I think there's massive efficiencies as we get the federal government, and then we're working very hard on property tax and funding of K-12 education to simplify it, take it off of property tax. To do that, we got all get the game back to what it was in 1968. We have to broaden sales tax because we've been duped on that.
What about the school land funds actually staying in the districts where those funds are produced? Yeah. That is really stuck in my craw all along because there's a lot of these western school districts that would be almost self-funding if they still received their school land funds instead of it going east.
So I'm not afraid to tell you what I don't know, and I don't know exactly how that all went, and if that's the best way. We've certainly made progress with the school funding. So every school, because when I was campaigning, I was stunned to learn that we have 244 school districts, and at that time, 180 did not get one penny from the state. 100% was property tax. And in 2005, 20 years ago, 224 of the 244 school districts had equalization aid. And that's how upside down everything has gone. So I'm a believer that, so we were able to keep $1 billion invested in a school education future fund to have that goal. Goal was 3,000, we could only do 1,500. So I'm just simply a believer that the state should quit quitting on kids. We, the state, should fund K-12 education, not run it. Fund it. We increased $250 million with special ed and the foundation aid. I believe that let's just say the state of Nebraska is about $3.1 billion for K-12 education. About 750 of that is for buildings. I believe that should stay on the property tax rolls, but the state funding. So that, let's just call that $1 billion, $1.2 billion. We need to do broad-based sales tax to pay for that, and then we have everything under control. So pretty darn simple stuff because we've had 120 sales tax exemptions in the last 60 years, and I believe we've been duped. I've been duped. We have groups called the Americans for Prosperity pounding the soup out of us that we're $1 billion tax increasers because our plan is broadening sales tax. Think of this. A lot of us are old enough to remember when that legislation was passed that we pay for our state with broad-based sales tax. We can decide instead of paying for our home 3 times. So today, if all those exemptions, in 23 we had $2.3 billion in property tax accrued or taken. If all the sales tax was in place, we'd had $7 billion in revenue. So we need tax transformation. It's really critical. And now maybe the other one, our neighbors to the north, South Dakota, right? So everybody knows what theirs is, right? They have no income tax, right? 0. and their property taxes, where our plan would get us to 40%, that's where they're at. And as I love to say, Mount Rushmore, everybody's been to Mount Rushmore, spectacular place, but it does not print money. So how do they run their government? They've got broad-based sales tax. I mean, they sales tax everything. So I'm an advocate, broad-based decrease of sales tax, and get our education off of our property tax. We're working hard on it. We're going to get 33 votes. It's very, very difficult. We have some people that have an ideology because some lobbying group says that if you vote for a sales tax, you'll never get reelected. Hey, I just want to solve problems. That's all. These lobbying groups, and that's where fake me, everything we did for the kids. Hey, we had 33 votes, and in some instances even bipartisan, where everybody said, this is what's right. You gotta get more people believing to do this is what's right. Other questions? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Governor, with the failure of our school bond locally and then across the state, many in our community are asking what comes next. What role do you believe the state should play in supporting local districts when local funding efforts fall short?
Yeah, it's the question. Did you ever hear the question about our school bond fell short? That's why it's really important we get everybody on our plan for broadening sales tax and have the state fund education, which lowers the project. Here's the facts are crystal clear. We all love our schools. Nobody is upset with our schools. The school bonds are failing because we can't afford them. So we need to fix property tax by having the state fund our education, not run education, fund it, and then when you do a school bond, it will pass because you can afford it. You can afford it because your property taxes have gone down 60%. There's not a shadow of a doubt. And we made progress. You know, we had property tax drop 20%, in some instances more. In some of those areas, that everything's a little different, but some of those areas bonds passed. So, but we have to have it. We have to get there if we're going to grow. I mean, anybody that wants to move back to McCook out of state, what's the first thing they look at? They go to, even I can go Google and go on to and use the technology to find out what our income tax is, and I can find out what our property tax is. And then all of a sudden you go, why would I do that? It's critical for us to grow Nebraska.